So I've been quite frustrated lately with the hatred and the division that's going on in our country, and I was thinking, what could I share with people to just bring back a little bit of peace? The best thing I could think of was to share some of the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Now, granted, it's been at least 10 years since I've done this publicly, so if I get any of the words wrong, you'll have to bear with me and please forgive me. Here we go. So Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1963 said this: "I am happy to be with you here today on what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who'd been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of captivity. But 100 years later, we must face the tragic fact that the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society, in exile in his own land. So we have come here today to dramatize an appalling condition. In a sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men would be guaranteed the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, it is obvious today that America has defaulted on that promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we have come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of this moment and to underestimate the determination of the Negro. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not end until there's been an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who are hoping that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor relaxation in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of this nation until that bright day of justice emerges. But there is something that I must say to my people who stand on the worn threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. That marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead to distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up in our destiny, and that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone, and as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro cannot vote in Mississippi and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Now, I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom has left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You've been the architects of creative suffering. Now continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Now go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to Georgia, go back to South Carolina, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and the ghettos of our nation's northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair, for I tell you today, my friends, despite the difficulties and the frustrations of this moment, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at a table of brotherhood. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day the state of Mississippi, a desert state, sweltering in the heat of injustice and oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day even the state of Alabama, whose governor's lips are presently dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, will be transformed into a situation where little black boys and black girls can join hands with little white boys and white girls and walk together as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that my 4 children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted. Every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is our faith. It is with this faith that I return to the South. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to fight for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with a new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing, land of the pilgrim's pride, land where my fathers died. From every mountainside let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, then this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightened Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous peaks of California. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when we let freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will speed up that day when all of God's children, both black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. And I don't know if I got all the words right, but if America's gonna come together, and if we're gonna stop with this bitterness and this hatred and this division, then we gotta take those words to heart. I am just about to pull into Publix and get myself a sub, so God bless. Share this video, subscribe, like, comment below. I love y'all. Take care.